All right, hello guys. Today we are talking about body weight and hiking, which I know it can be a very tricky subject because when it comes down to it, the world of body weight, weight management, weight loss, weight gain, and all of that, it is so full of confusion, frustration, and in all honesty, downright absurdity that so many people do struggle with this subject in so many different ways. But despite all of that, today we are going to be diving into this a little bit because this particular subject I'm going to be talking about is very important. And I do want every single listener on this podcast being aware of it. Now to start, before I do go into any further, and if you're getting those nerves building up in you and you're getting that anxiety and you're like, oof, what is Rowan going to say here? I'm going to preface this with a bit of a general summary of the episode, just to calm those nerves and let you know where I'm coming from with this. If you are training for hiking, I personally believe it really doesn't matter how much you weigh or how big or small you may be. What I do care about, however, is how strong you are compared to how much you weigh. And that is an incredibly important distinction. I'll say it again. What I do care about is how strong you are compared to how much you weigh. So let's go back to the start. We'll take a few steps back and I'll talk you through what actually has inspired this episode so you kind of do know where I'm coming from with all of this. Now, a few weeks ago, by the time this episode will be released, I was chatting with a hiker who was sort of considering coming on board one of the Summit Strength training programs. She was preparing for her first big through hike, and we were having a bit of a discovery call, which is always the first step if anyone is interested in one of my programs. Now, in these situations, we hop on the phone, and the goal of these calls is really for us both to really get to know each other properly and really discover if and how one of my programs may be a good fit for this person's goal and situation. And also, on the other side of things, if and how one of my programs, if they might be a good fit for one of my programs, because it does go both ways and it is very important. And through this call, as we always do, we dove into a whole bunch of different topics, really for me to get a good understanding of, what was going on. Now we explored her upcoming hiking goals, her training history, the things she struggled with on the trail, and a whole bunch of different areas to really dive into things and let me get a thorough understanding of her situation. And after we were chatting through all this, after going through it all, I was sort of able to determine that I actually felt like I was in a good position to help her. And on top of this, I was actually very confident that where she was right now, in the time frame she had, that we could get her where she wanted to be for this particular hike coming up. And I told her that. But when I said this, she responded with this. How do you know this? You haven't even asked me how much I weigh. Which in all honesty, it was a bit surprising to me. I wasn't expecting that. But I could absolutely see where she was coming from. Because, all through our life, when it comes to health, fitness, whatever, we really drilled into us how much you weigh, or how big you are, or whatever it may be, is almost the number one concern. You see this with weight loss. You go into any gym, whether you want to put muscle on or lose body fat or whatever it may be, you see all the ads on Instagram, the supplements, this and that. That is what 95% of the fitness industry is, in all honesty. And obviously there's a lot to unpack in that situation and that statement I just said before, and there is a lot to argue there. And, there's probably a lot to sort of dive into, but that's not the intention of today's episode. I'm not going to get lost in all that because I could go on and on, and we're not really getting to the point that I want to make. What is the intention of this episode is when it comes to your performance, your comfort, and your capabilities on the trail, it doesn't really matter what you weigh. Now, I know hikers personally who are much heavier and larger than me, who can absolutely hike me into the ground any day of the week. On the other side of things, I know hikers who are much lighter and smaller than me that can do absolutely the same thing. Now, weight itself, it isn't really that big a deal when it comes to your hiking performance and capabilities on its own. What is important, and what if you are trying to judge someone's hiking ability, don't look at their weight. And going through that, it isn't great. What is important is how strong you are relative to your weight. Because it all comes down to how you can handle, support, and propel your body on the trail through all the uphills, downhills, steps, rough section, heavy packs, and all those weird and wonderful things that we love about hiking. This is what matters, how you can handle your body. And if you're trying to improve your hiking, this is what you should be focusing on in your training. If you want to lose weight, if you want to gain weight, absolutely fair play. That is absolutely fine. I'm not arguing that. I'm not saying you shouldn't be doing this if that's something you want to be doing. But if you are looking at improving your hiking performance, this shouldn't be your first priority. It shouldn't be the first thing you consider here, and it shouldn't be where you're putting most of your effort and attention. Again, if you want to do these things, that's fine. But if you're trying to improve your hiking, they shouldn't be the priorities. Now, in this situation on the phone, going back to the story, I did explain all this. It took a bit of time. I dived into my philosophies around this and what it all meant about that. And I talked her through sort of how I personally go about determining a hiker's capabilities, which is our assessment process. Now, this assessment obviously can't be done over the phone, and it takes a little bit deeper than just asking people questions. But what we do before we start working with any hiker on any one of the programs we offer is we get them to go through a number of assessments which we use to determine their strengths, weaknesses, and also any potential blind spots which may affect their hiking, may affect their training, may affect any type of pain or issue they're dealing with, or whatever it may be. Now, these assessments, they don't involve doing the old stand on a scale, take your blood pressure, do a waist circumference and all of that stuff you've probably done in the gym before. That's not what it involves. What it does involve is doing a series of sort of strength and movement-based assessments. So I can look at it. I can see how your body moves. I can determine how strong you are or how restricted certain parts of your body are compared to a number of particular benchmarks we have. So, for example, we've got a number of assessments where we look at different body parts relative to your hiking. So we look at quad strength, we look at glute and hamstring strength, we look at calf strength, we look at abdominal endurance, and a whole bunch of different things. Then I could say, okay, look, in your situation, your quads, actually, they do need a bit of work. They're not quite as strong as they need to be. If you're going to be doing lots of elevation, which the quads are going to be doing a lot of work, we need to get those stronger. Alternatively, we may look at that, the same assessment, and say, actually, you know what? Your quads, you're laughing. You're really, really strong there. And we'll still work on them because quads are always going to be good, but that's not going to be our priority. And there's probably going to be other areas where we need to put a bit more focus in. So these assessments are super, super, super important. Now, also to be clear on this, these assessments that we use, it's not like a pass or fail thing. It's not saying, hey, you hit this score so you can go out hike, or you didn't hit this score so I would recommend you against something. That's not what we're doing. But what we're using these assessments for is to determine exactly where you need to put your focus in your training. And bringing it back to sort of the core emphasis of this episode, I personally believe using this approach, as opposed to making assumptions about someone's weight or size, is so much more appropriate, accurate, and effective for any part of the training process, any part of your hiking journey. And I do truly believe that if you focus on this, and you're aware of where you need to put your efforts into, and you develop the strength and capacities that you personally need, almost anyone can conquer any trail they want on the world, regardless of how big or how small they may be. I'll say that again. If you put the effort into the right areas for you, you develop the right strength, the right capacities that you personally need, pretty much anyone can conquer any trail in the world, regardless of how big or small they may be. Yes, there may be outliers. Yes, there may be people in unique situations which hold them back, but it is not your weight. And that's the what I'm trying to make the point here. It just takes doing the right training, getting the right support, and knowing where to put your attention. That, in all honesty, is the secret source of hiking performance, regardless of the weight. So if you are looking at trying to get fit for a hike, if you're looking to try and overcome an ache or pain for your hiking, if you're trying to just get more comfortable on your local hiking or whatever it may be, don't get obsessed about the weight. Doesn't have to be a priority. Where you should be putting your attention to is getting yourself strong, getting yourself conditioned, getting yourself capable, and that will make the difference on the trail. Now, if you're listening to this today and you're like, you know what, Rowan, you're making a lot of sense here. This actually does sound like something I would like to focus on. I'm sick of thinking about weight loss. I'm sick of thinking about weight gain. That's not what I'm enjoying, and it's really getting in my head. And instead, I want to focus on improving my hiking in other ways. Well, if you're thinking that, then I have something for you. Now, if you haven't heard already this week, which I'm sure you have, but if you haven't heard already, this week I am doing a big promotion for my signature program, which is the Online Summit program. Now, specifically, I'm looking for no more than 10 hikers who want to get strong and also pain-free so they can conquer any adventure they want over the next 12 weeks. So if you want to improve your capabilities on a hike, if you want to start feeling more comfortable, more confident on these hiking adventures, if you want to overcome an ache or pain, whatever it may be, I want to hear from you. If you want to learn a little bit more, shoot me an email to Rowan, ROWAN, at summitstrength.com.au. Just with the words, tell me more. From there, we can organise a time to chat. We can go through one of those discovery calls I was mentioning before. We can dive into things and really just see what you're looking for. And if there is something, I might be able to help you with that. From there, if you do choose to come on board, then we'll go through those assessment processes and we'll identify exactly where we need to work to see the best results as quickly as we can to get you feeling good on the trail and on your adventures. It really is as simple as that. If you want to get involved or you just simply want to learn more, shoot me an email to rowan at summitstrength.com.au with the words tell me more and we can go from there. So thank you so much for listening today, guys. I do hope you've enjoyed this. I do hope you've learned something, and I do hope you sort of understand where I'm coming from with this. And I do hope it helps you with your training journey. So thank you very much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.